Hi everybody and welcome to
Bible Box.
Bible Box. I'm Miss Kim and this is
Amelia
and
Harrison.
And Eliza is behind the camera.
Hi guys.
So today we're going to be talking about a really fun Bible story. Should we open up the box and see what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, ready? All right, Harrison, you want to pick something first? Oh, look at that. Okay, Amelia.
I think it might still be usable though.
Some stars. Harrison?
From our previous video.
Well. Oh, okay, that.
Looks like a gauge or something.
Okay, Amelia? A crown, a little mini crown. Well, for today's story, I thought of a fun activity we could do using all these things to tell the Bible story, okay? Do you guys have any ideas about what story all these things could help us tell?
Jesus is born.
Jesus, okay. No, that's not right. Sorry.
I thought that because of the crown, he's the king.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
And the star.
The stars. Well, I will tell you what it is. We are going to be talking today about the story of Joseph.
Ooh.
You guys know about Joseph?
Yeah.
I know that you guys know about Joseph because all three of these kiddos right now are in the kids' choir in a production of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Not just the kids' choir.
Well, okay, you're a little part of her, a little tiny part. So we really love the Joseph musical, right? It's really fun. The songs are great. But there's a little problem with it. And that the message in the musical
isn't the same.
It's really not very good. And it's definitely not the message of the story in the Bible.
It's not the real story.
In the musical, there's some kind of ridiculous lines. Like, anyone from anywhere can make it if they get a lucky break. That's not really what the Bible says the story is about. So, should we talk about the actual story and what the actual Bible story is about? Here's the deal with Joseph. Joseph was he's like a teenager when the story starts. And his father's name was Jacob, but God also named him Israel. Have you heard of Israel before?
Yeah, I know that it's a place.
It's a whole country of people. It was God's chosen people. And so Joseph's father, Jacob or Israel, is the one that it all started with. It's kind of a big deal. Joseph maybe was kind of like Jacob's favorite son.
Because Joseph reminded Jacob
Because he reminded me of her. Okay, but anyway.
Sneak peek of
the point is, Joseph was Jacob's favorite son, but Joseph also had 11 brothers who were pretty jealous of the fact that he was their father's favorite. And they kind of really didn't like it. And then to make it worse, Jacob bought him this fancy, colorful coat. And I'm using this thing to represent his colorful coat. It's maybe a little of a stretch, but you'll see why it makes sense when we do our activity, okay? Jacob bought Joseph this colorful coat that kind of showed him and everybody else that Joseph was his favorite son. And the brothers were not too happy about this.
Just don't pick favorites.
Just don't pick favorite kids. It's not that hard. On top of that, Joseph started having these dreams. And the dreams involved things and people bowing down to him. And one of the dreams involved stars bowing down to Joseph. He went and he told all his brothers this, which was maybe not the best idea. But he told his brothers, hey, I had this dream that there were 11 stars bowing down to me. What do you think it means? To the brothers, it sure sounded like it meant they would be bowing down to him. They really did not like that. So they decided they were going to kill Joseph. They went out into a field far away, and they were like, we're going to get rid of this Joseph kid. But the oldest brother, Reuben, he was feeling kind of bad about it. So he's like, no, let's not kill him. Let's just throw him in this pit. And then Reuben secretly planned to go back and get him later and save him. So the brothers all agreed on this pit thing. They threw him in the pit. And then, before Reuben could get back to save him out of the pit, some people called Ishmaelites, which were like merchants. They like bought and sold stuff. They came by, and the brothers saw an opportunity here. And they said, if we can sell Joseph as a slave, we'll get money and he'll be gone. So they did this, and they sold Joseph as a slave to the Ishmaelites. Then they went back and they lied to their father. They tore up his fancy little coat and got a bunch of like animal blood all over it. And they gave it to his father and told him some wild animal ate Joseph. And Jacob was so sad because it was his favorite son. He was dead. So Joseph goes off to Egypt to be a slave. It was pretty bad news. He ends up at this guy's house named Potiphar.
I'm mini him.
Harrison's mini Potiphar. He worked really hard for Potiphar, and he was a great servant to Potiphar. Potiphar really liked Joseph, and it was great. But then Potiphar's wife, she was a little shady, and she thought Joseph was pretty cute, and she kind of wanted to like cheat on her husband with Joseph. But Joseph said, no, you're a married lady. Well, this offended her greatly, and so she told Potiphar that Joseph had hurt her. And Potiphar, of course, got very mad, and he threw Joseph in jail. So now Joseph is in jail, feeling pretty hopeless. And whatever, this is supposed to be a jail, but you've destroyed it. Okay, so here's our little jail. So then while he was in jail, these two guys showed up who worked for Pharaoh. And Pharaoh is like the king of Egypt. And one of them was Pharaoh's baker, who made his food. And one of them was his cupbearer, or like in the play it says butler, kind of the same thing. Even while Joseph was in jail, he was kind, he continued to obey God. And basically everybody liked him in jail. He was making friends. So he made friends with these two guys. And one day they both woke up with dreams that they had had. They were a little disturbed and trying to figure out what they meant. And Joseph was like, hey, I've had a lot of dreams. God helps me interpret dreams. Maybe I can help with your dream. And they were like, yeah, totally. So he told them both what their dreams meant. To the baker, he said, bad news, Pharaoh's going to kill you. But to the cupbearer, he said, good news, Pharaoh is going to hire you. You're going to work for Pharaoh again. And so Joseph said, hey, when you're back working for Pharaoh, can you put in a good word for me and get me out of jail? Well, bad news. The cupbearer totally forgot about Joseph. And like a couple years goes by and Joseph's just sitting in jail waiting for something to happen. But then one day, Pharaoh had some really weird dreams. And he was very disturbed by them. And that is when the cupbearer remembered that Joseph was sitting in jail and that he had gotten all their dreams right. And he was like, whoa, Pharaoh, there's this guy in jail. He knows how to interpret dreams. And Pharaoh was like, get him in here. So Joseph came to Pharaoh, and he was able to tell Pharaoh what his dreams meant. And Pharaoh's dreams were about how there were going to be a lot of years in Egypt.
With so much food.
Where they were growing a lot of food. So there were going to be 7 years of like tons of food growing, extra food, more than they needed. It was great. But then after that, there were going to be 7 years of famine. Do you guys know what famine is? No? It's when you can't get your food to grow and you run out of food. And then people die of starvation. So it's very serious. So there were going to be 7 years of famine. And Joseph was like, hey, it would be a good idea if you figured out how to take some of the extra food from the first 7 years and save it for the 7 years of famine. And Pharaoh was like, yes, that's a great idea. And so he put Joseph in charge and basically made Joseph
Pharaoh.
And basically made Joseph like a little prince. Joseph was the second in command right under Pharaoh. So he was a really big deal. And Joseph worked really hard and did a great job of preparing Egypt for this famine so that their people didn't starve. Well, Jacob and his sons were still back in Canaan, where Joseph was originally from. And the famine had hit Canaan too. And they were all starving to death. And Jacob said to his sons, like, why are you just sitting around while we're starving? We know that there's extra food in Egypt. Go try to get some. So Jacob sends his sons to Egypt where they run into Joseph, but they don't know it's Joseph. But Joseph recognizes them. So there's a lot of drama back and forth where Joseph is testing his brothers to see if his brothers were still kind of jerks who threw him in a pit, or did they grow up a little and now they're stand-up good guys. So they go back and forth. He does a bunch of tests and he determines that they are good, honest men. And he finally tells them, hey, it's me, your brother Joseph. And they're like, what? He's like, I know, it's crazy. And they're so happy. And Jacob comes to Egypt, and Pharaoh gives them a place to live. And they're all saved from this horrible famine. They all have food to eat and a place to live. And God works the whole story out to make sure that his people, Israel, the very start of his people and of this whole big nation of Israel, he makes sure that they survive, right? By bringing them to Egypt and providing food for them. And all of these crazy things that happened in Joseph's life, there are a lot of ups and downs and pits and jails and kings and Potiphar's. All these things work together to make sure that God's ultimate plan to save his people, Israel, worked out just the way he wanted it to. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that an interesting story? I know. So all these things that happened in Joseph's life, they were kind of like a chain reaction. Do you guys know what a chain reaction is?
No.
You've never heard of a chain reaction?
But it's like a loop. It's like a loop.
It's not really like a loop. It's like when one thing happens that causes the next thing to happen, that causes the next thing to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So Joseph's life was kind of like that. It made me think of like a Rube Goldberg machine. Have you guys ever seen this before?
No.
It's like,
yes, I have a little video.
It's like when you have a little ball and it drops here and it goes through here and da 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 da, and it goes through all these different contraptions and these different little things, and in the end, you know, it does something at the end. So I thought it would be fun to make something like that with these things that represent Joseph's life, so we can see how each thing worked together, and in the end, it accomplished God's purpose of saving his people. Should we try to make one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go try. So, was that a fun way to see how all the things in Joseph's life work together?
Yeah.
And in the end, God saved the people of Israel. And did you know that many, many, many years later, that Jesus was born as a part of that nation? Did you know? And while the musical wants you to think that it's like all just luck, we know that it's not, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know that the whole time, God was working out all these different things in Joseph's life to bring him to Egypt and to bring him up to power so that he could bring his family there. In Genesis 45:5, Joseph talks to his brothers and he says, "And now do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you."
Not only can we look at what God did in the story, but we can see what Joseph did. Joseph always obeyed God and trusted him. He could have tried to take revenge on his brothers, he could have ran off with Potiphar's wife, and he could have found ways to lie and cheat in order to get ahead. But he didn't. He kept obeying God even when it wasn't easy and times were hard.
In Genesis 39:9, Joseph says this to Potiphar's wife when she tried to seduce him. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except for you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" So Joseph refused to disobey God. Joseph also always made sure to give God the credit for the good things he did, like when he helped people by interpreting their dreams. In Genesis 41:16, when Pharaoh asks Joseph to interpret his dream, Joseph says, "I cannot do it," Joseph replied to Pharaoh, "but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires." So Joseph knew that it wasn't just luck, and it wasn't because he was smart or good looking or anything like that. He knew that it was all because God was helping him do what he needed to do, and God was using him for his own purpose. Isn't that a great story?
Yeah.
Agreed. Okay, now let's do our Bible challenge from last week. Do you want to look it up, buddy? Okay, it was James 5:13. Is anyone among you in trouble? Let them pray. Is anyone blank? Let them sing songs of praise.
Is anyone among you in trouble? Let them pray. Is anyone happy? Let them sing songs of praise.
Good. So the missing word was happy. And that means even when we're sad or when we're happy, we should always pray. This week's Bible challenge verse is Genesis 50:20. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for blank, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. That is what Joseph said to his brothers. So go look that up in your own Bibles and let us know what the missing word is. Now, how about jokes? Does anybody have a joke?
I have a riddle.
What's your riddle?
Imagine you're in a dark room. There's no way out. So there's no doors, no windows, and it's pitch black. All you have is a pencil. How do you get out?
Okay. If you know the answer to this riddle, leave it in the comments.
Or if you can find out.
We will try to remember to talk about it next week. Okay. Are you ready for my joke? Okay. It is. What did Pharaoh say when he walked into the bathroom? Any ideas? Do you want to know the answer?
Yeah.
He said, "What Sphinx in here?" Because the Sphinx is in Egypt and it stinks in the bathroom. All right. That's everything for this week. Did you guys like that story of Joseph?
Yeah.
Was it good? Great. Okay. We'll see you next time on
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
We'll
Right?
fix this Joseph nerd.
He was.
Burn.
Oh
my
no.
gosh.
Okay.